Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. My name is Don.
My name is Jonathan.
And today we are talking about this. This was a 2020 film, right?
Yeah.
2020,
Best
Closeout
picture winner.
directed. What's that?
Best picture winner.
Best Picture in 2020. That's correct. Closeout was also Best Director. Stars Francis McDormand. It is called Nomadland. Um, I get what basic premise, hard times hit this town. This lady loses her husband and she lives the van life, basically.
Yeah.
Which, for me, okay, I'm kind of glad that I know it's a thing for some people, but my oldest daughter, who is now 41, said, I really think I'd like to do that. But after watching this film, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it. You definitely don't want to do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it is. I think one of the best ways to describe this film. It is a long-term slow burn.
Yes.
It's a talky movie. There's a lot of long shots
Yeah.
of staring at open ground and just people talking around a fire
Yeah.
or something like that. Uh, it is the farthest thing from an action film
Yeah.
or an exciting, and
It's a contemplative movie. It just is.
it is definitely a contemplative film.
It
Definitely.
it, it actually made me think a lot about Train Dreams. Like that idea of
Similar. Yep.
this is kind of a meditative piece of art. Like you're supposed to sit here and kind of think about life. Like that's what you're doing.
Yeah. Think about life to shots of sunsets and sad piano music.
Yes. Yeah.
And now look, I sound like I'm really ragging on the film. I am, I will say, not my favorite movie.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I didn't like it. It was
Yeah.
decent. I think it touches on some really interesting stuff for us to talk about,
Yeah.
which is always our intention anyway.
Yeah.
So, where do you want to start, John?
Um, I I it's interesting because I really felt sad about her life,
Hmm.
and I don't know if that was the intention of the movie. Like, um, because I get the sense of kind of they're clearly actually several people in this film are actually people that do this. And including kind of the big advocate for kind of minimalistic van life is in this movie, and Bob
Hmm.
Wells, I think is his
Bob,
name.
yeah.
And I felt there was an attempt to kind of honor this way of life, but I really felt sad at the end, especially about kind of this character, because in a weird way, I felt like she was hiding from actually dealing with life, and she really wasn't engaging her life. And to me, that was kind of sad. It wasn't something to cheer. It was something to go like, yeah, I'm not sure you're actually working through your husband's death or your fear of abandonment or, you know, I mean, I don't know. I did not check if Union is an actual town, but I know this has happened to towns. And so at the very first part of the movie, you get a screenshot that says Union, whatever, this community, the mine there closed, and the entire town no longer exists. Like there's no zip code, nobody lives there. Like it wasn't just the the pain of like this major industry living leaving. This entire community ceased to exist. And so Fran, the woman McDormand plays, she has not only lost her husband, she has lost the town that they formed a life in and that she stayed with him in because he loved the town so much. So like it was almost like a double death that
Hmm.
she was dealing with. And I really feel like the movie tries to celebrate this way of life, but to me at least, I kept on thinking as a pastor, this woman really isn't processing her grief, like she's running away from it.
The sense of it being this very kind of sad existence,
Yeah,
just scraping and scraping and scraping and scraping to get by. And it's interesting that when I think she's laid off or from Amazon around Christmas or after
yeah,
Christmas, and she says, I like to work, I want to work.
yeah,
Well, then find some place where you can work and settle down and establish a life instead of just roaming around from job to job and place to place. It's just that to me. I mean, look, back when we were kids, we would call people like that hobos. You know,
yeah.
they would ride the trains from one place to another and get odd jobs, and
Well, I feel like if you wanted to make a, again, I kind of felt like it was a disjointed movie in some ways. If you wanted to make a movie about the economic collapse of 2008 and how that led to people scrambling for work or living in their cars or not being able to exist, those people clearly existed. Those stories clearly could be told, but in the way you frame this movie, you can't really lean into this idea that she can't find work and she has to live in her van. You can at the beginning, but as the movie goes on, she's making a conscious choice to stay on the road and go from job to job and kind of, she's not struggling to find work. She's at some point choosing to do this.
yeah, yeah. In a sense, I mean, they're almost glamorizing homelessness.
Yeah.
And even to the point where once someone's child says to her, my mom says you're homeless, and she says, I'm not homeless, I'm houseless.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, look, as full-time clergy in the UMC,
Yeah.
you and I literally we're like kind of on that borderline where
Yeah.
we live in a home but we don't own the home,
Right.
and we're in some senses we're one bad complaint from being homeless.
Yeah, absolutely.
you know
Yeah, yeah. I guess I don't know because I here at Lacey, we do a lot of work with folks who are unhoused or homeless, however you want to phrase it.
hmm
Um, and it's too often, I would argue, in this community, I will get from people, well, homeless people are that way because they want to be, or they're homeless because they can't possibly have a home. And the vast majority of people that, or I get from way too many people in this community, there isn't a homeless problem here. And you're like, you want to come to Tuesdays and Thursdays lunches? And so I guess I'm kind of sensitive to a movie that you could easily, and I'm not saying they intended to do this, but I think people that really want to avoid dealing with homelessness could go, oh, see, this homeless people are homeless because they want to be. And I'm like, no, there's a lot of homeless people because they're living in their car because they have to live in their car and they don't have another choice.
realistically
Yeah.
in this film, Fern is homeless because she chooses to be.
Yeah.
She has several opportunities
Yes.
to take up residence in some place other than her van.
I mean, she clearly has financial issues, but one time her sister invites her to stay with her, and another time, kind of a romantic interest, kind of.
Kind
Dave
of, yeah.
Dave invites her to stay with his children because they have a guest house.
hmm
And so both times, I thought it was interesting. Both times she kind of runs away after they invite her to stay, which I thought was interesting. She's kind
Yeah.
of has this dramatic kind of repulsion to the idea of settling down. And again, especially because I looked up the Bob Wells guy actually started this YouTube channel where he talks about cheap RV living because he saw a woman and her family living in a car, and he wanted to find ways to kind of support, make their lives better. And then he's actually started an organization where they link people who need vehicles and give them vehicles and make them livable if they have to live in them. you know, and I just felt like that's the discussion I guess I'd rather have about like people that actually have to live in vehicles because that's their only option. And
Hmm.
at some point it became clear that she didn't need that, and then it became kind of sad because I felt like she was running away from her
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, and from confronting her own issues,
Yeah.
right? Confronting her own grief, confronting her own loss, dealing with it, processing it,
Yeah.
and then moving on.
Yeah.
Instead, like her moving on is to just kind of dwell in isolation. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe the happiest parts of this whole film are those moments when it's the van life people, or the
Yeah.
the nomads, if you will, who when they gather, you know, and
Yeah.
and then but they always end in some kind of sad note with somebody departing. Who was the one character, Linda May, who
Yeah.
was going off to die.
Oh, Swanky was the one who
Oh,
died.
is it Swanky? Okay. Yeah. She's leaving to go die.
Yeah, and then even like Linda May, you had this powerful scene where she's like, I had to retire, and then I looked at my Social Security income, and I was going to make 550 a month, and I was like, how is that possible? I've raised kids and worked 30 years, and there was a part of me that's like, stay there, stay in talking about her life, and there are real people that literally don't have enough money to choose to be in a house,
Hmm.
and that's a conversation we need to have. But the main character, Fran, you can't make that argument because she clearly chooses to continue in this life.
Right. Right. Yeah. There, to me, I mean, the music in the film reflects it, but there's this sort of intense sadness
Yeah,
about the whole story.
yeah,
I think similar to Train Dreams, they couch it in some beautiful imagery,
yes. Oh yeah.
right?
If you want a beautifully shot film about the western part of the country, this is your movie because there's so many beautiful scenes in this movie.
Yeah, for sure. But if you have an aversion to kind of sad films, turn the sound off.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I don't know. Again, maybe I'm more critical than I should be, but like even the kind of the thing that Bob Wells says, where he's talking at the end about his son committing suicide and how he decided that he wanted to honor him by helping people. And that's a noble thing that I want to applaud.
Hmm.
But it was very sad to me that he couldn't literally speak the words. Because I don't know how you feel, but oftentimes I feel like when people get caught in a story of sadness, they can't finish their sentences. They can't
Right.
say, my son committed suicide. They kind of start and then they break down. And to me, at least, being someone who's had to counsel people, in the back of my head, that's a sign they still need to process.
Yeah, absolutely. Unprocessed grief.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, let's be honest. We see it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
We see it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So what else? I think there's some other good stuff in here. Um,
I
we
mean
talk a little bit about
the
homelessness.
yeah, the
What was-
importance of community. Um, I like the idea of what's remembered lives. I like
Yeah, yeah.
that statement of, one of the things that Fran talks about toward the end of the movie is she loved her husband, Bo. He died. They didn't have kids. He died in a very painful way.
Hmm.
and he loved the community that they were in. That's why they stayed. That's why she stayed. And then when the community fell apart and ceased to exist, she fought to stay as long as she could because she felt like once she left, there would be no longer anything to remember both from. And I thought that that is kind of the challenge of life, of making memories, making connections, and I just love the idea that when we remember things, they live. So, like when you remember people that you've lost, they're still in a powerful way alive, you know. And I like that idea. And I thought it spoke to this beautiful idea in Christianity that the people that have gone on to glory, the people that are, in the beatific vision in front of God, with God, they're more alive than we are. In the tradition, in the theological sense, they're more alive than we are. And I just like that idea of what's remembered lived. I thought that was a beautiful sentiment.
And how often have you touched on that idea in a funeral sermon?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Almost almost every single time.
Yeah,
Uh, because it resonates.
yeah,
It resonates not just with us as clergy, but I think with, with the people, like, as long as you carry these solid, these happy memories of this person, then, they continue to live on in your life.
yeah.
Yeah, that the other, I think one of the interesting things here is this idea of self-sufficiency
Hmm.
that comes up in the film, because you I'll use the term, friends forgive me. This is not created for children. I'll use the term that's used in the film. When you live in the van, you have to learn to deal with your shit.
Yeah, yeah,
And they literally mean your excrement,
yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah,
Your waste, not just your personal stuff. But it does, I think, symbolically also means your personal stuff, which
yeah,
she doesn't deal with. She learns to deal with the material,
yeah,
but not the other
yeah,
part. Um, I don't know. I think that whole, I mean, it's a very American kind of ideal, right?
yeah.
That self-sufficiency, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, which doesn't make any sense, by the way.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's again, that's part of the thing I always struggle with is that self-made man or woman BS
Mhm.
that we swim in as Americans, especially, is just an illusion. Nobody self-make anything. You're not a self-made person.
You
Nobody
don't
is.
go through this life alone.
No.
You
And so
can't.
self-sufficiency is just an illusion. And um, I don't know, one of the saddest parts of this movie for me was when Dave invites Fran. He said, I've talked to my son and daughter-in-law. They're fine if you want to move into their guest home, and stay with us for a while." And she's sitting in a dark room, clearly early in the morning, and nobody's up yet but her. And then she leaves, and then she drives to the coast, and then you have this moment where like she's surrounded by water and the spray of waves, and she's clearly happy. And in the moment when she's in this house, she's like forlorn and sad. And to me, that is like should be reversed. Like, you know, this idea of these people opening their home to her, this idea of let's build a community and maybe a quasi family together, should be a joyous thing. And yes, it's beautiful. That location is beautiful. And if I was there, I would probably be smiling too, but I wouldn't be smiling because I've escaped my possible family. I'd be smiling because it's beautiful landscape.
If that does not, are you a lectionary preacher, John?
Not often. No.
Okay. So right now I am in a lectionary.
Okay.
I'm preaching a series in the lectionary.
Okay.
And I'm using the New Testament passages, which are in Acts.
Okay.
Okay. So Acts is basically the birth of the church,
Sure.
the development, the early development of the church. Um, and it's interesting because you use the word community,
Yeah.
okay, in reference to this, like build a
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, is Fern's aversion to building a community, is that almost for us? And again, I'm coming at this from, I know I'm getting a long way to get to this, but for us as clergy, is this almost make this an anti-Christian church film? Because that she is so averse to building community, and
Yeah.
yet that is the very nature of what the church ought to be, is
Yeah.
a community building place, right?
It's interesting. It when you put it in that way, one of the things that came to me is one of the things that sometimes parishioners say to me that just grades on me when they'll go like, I come to church to be uplifted, or I come to church to feel better. And I'll be like, some of that should happen, but sometimes you come to church to be challenged or you come to church to be convicted. Like that's part of it too. And in a weird way, you could almost argue she is taking hits of community, but she's not actually developing community.
Yeah. And,
She,
by the way, that church, if you come to church for you,
yeah,
I need to remind you that church, the gathering, the ecclesia, is not about
you
you.
about worshiping God. Yeah. But
So you need a
yeah,
change in perspective there, my
yeah.
friend. You know?
Well, I just, in a weird way, it's almost like she's taking a shot of community because human beings need community, but she's
Right.
just taking a shot. She doesn't want to be part of the messiness of community. So she engages around the fire, or she engages around the singing, or she engages around the kind of the feast, right? But
Hmm.
the messiness of building relationships with individuals or working through difficult times or navigating health issues, those things she doesn't want to be a part of. You know,
Could you almost say she's akin to someone who just comes to church for communion?
yeah, yeah.
It's
Or comes to church because of I would even because to me, and I know to you too, but for Methodist tradition, um, communion's a holy sacred thing. So it's
Mhm.
almost like she comes for coffee and donuts after worship.
Coffee hour.
Yeah. She comes for coffee hour and then she kind of, you know, you
Uh,
know, yeah.
that's really wow. We have gone probably a whole lot more theological with this film than we have with a lot of other films, and certainly more than the director and the writers intended.
Yeah. I could see Chloe John going, "What are you talking about?"
What are you guys talking about?
I don't know. I felt like there was an attempt to kind of um praise this lifestyle, and to me it was just really sad. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like I think it would be awesome to retire and take an RV around the country. I think that would be a great thing to do. I
Sure.
think I would totally enjoy it. But I would want to have a home base. I would want to have somewhere that I could come back and share all these cool stories with. And I would not want to just constantly be kind of going from community to community, but never really having a home base.
I think there's something here to be said for really, really great filmmaking should be two things. It should be inspirational and aspirational,
Yeah,
right? It should inspire you want to do something, but it also should aspire you to greater heights.
yeah,
And I get the sense that this film doesn't really reach either of those.
yeah,
So, and again, not making that a bad film
yeah,
any more than, like you said, Train Dreams.
yeah.
Not a bad film,
No,
but I think in a similar vein, not. inspirational or aspirational. It doesn't make me want to live in a van.
Yeah.
It does.
Well,
God forbid.
and to me, like, I think the conversation about why there are people that need to live in their vehicles, we need to have a discussion about that.
Certainly.
And even the idea of being minimalist and going like, okay, what's really necessary in your life?
Hmm.
Do you need 50 outfits? Or could you do a better job of life and helping people if you cut it down to 10? Like those kind of conversations are things that I think Christians should think about and struggle with. I guess to me, I really wanted to recognize that I wanted the film to recognize the sadness of Fran's life. This isn't a life well lived. It's a life that's she's hiding from her life, I guess,
Yeah.
in my understanding, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, it is it is profoundly a sad film.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's maybe part of what I'm missing here is there's no story arc. You know what I mean? Like there's no redemption arc for Fern's character. She is at the end what she was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think in a weird way it would have been interesting to move the scene where she goes back to the abandoned mine and the abandoned community. It would have
mhm.
been interesting to move that to the front of the movie. You know,
Or have some redemption there in that
yeah,
she finds a way to settle back in the home that she left and
yeah,
get a job nearby and or something. I don't know. Like I said, there doesn't seem to be any character development here.
yeah,
She is, like I said, at the end what she was at the beginning.
yeah.
And that's missing. For me, that's missing from a film. If
Or
that's
even,
not there, that I miss that.
or even like at the end of the movie, her in the van looking out into a beautiful scenery, and then having her sister and brother-in-law pull up, and where they're going to like engage with her life or experience it with her. Like that would have been like this idea for me of hopefulness about like she's still connecting to the people that she cares about. She's still, maybe she goes throughout the year and travels around the country, but she finds her way back to her sister and and builds a relationship with her.
It's funny you just when you said she pulls up to the ocean,
Yeah.
okay? I just had a vision of another film that does this sort of thing. It's sort of these two characters that are just going along and nothing really and in the end they drive off a cliff.
Oh yeah. Thelma and Louise.
Thelma and Louise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what was that about? I don't, and I feel like asking the same question here. What was the point of this?
Yeah. And
You know?
did you find it interesting? And maybe this is again the complexity of what the director wanted us to struggle with, but did you find it really interesting that uh, a couple times, but especially with Derek, who was like a homeless, a caravan young man,
Hmm.
but was clearly like running away from his family. At one point, Fran like talks to him and tries to encourage him to go back to his family.
Yeah.
And there was almost like a part of me that went like, Fran, you really should recognize you're talking to yourself.
Position, heal thyself. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And look, that's literally one of the second encounter with Derek.
yeah,
Literally one of the sweetest parts of the film when
yeah,
she recites Shakespeare
yeah,
to him. Like that was amazing.
yeah,
Like there is so much, or there's so much more in you.
yeah.
Hmm.
I just yeah, when she did that, and she did that with somebody else. I can't remember right now, but when she was like telling Derek, basically you should go home to your parents. I was like, Fran, you should go to your sisters. Like,
Goodness gracious. Well, friends, I feel a little bit of my cynical self coming up here in saying that yeah, of course the Academy awarded this film Best Picture of 2020. Um, I don't know what other films were nominated that year, but I can't imagine that this was the best movie to come out in 2020. Um, I think this is maybe the Academy, patting themselves on the back or something. I
Well,
don't really
I
know,
think
but
too, this was her third best actress win, and clearly, I mean, she's clearly an amazing actress. She just is
yeah.
like, you know, um,
Far,
and
go
may,
watch Fargo.
and maybe,
Goodness.
and to be honest, maybe we all were desperate to get outside, and a movie about the beauty of nature. We all were trapped in our house. This was
That's
COVID.
what it is.
Maybe we were like, man, I want to go van lifing, man.
That's exactly what it is.
I want to see the ocean again. Like,
Oh my goodness. I was 3 blocks from the ocean during COVID and I didn't see it. So
yeah.
goodness. All right. Friends, we're going to wrap up talking about Nomadland. If you're so inclined, it is a beautifully shot film.
Yeah.
It's well, you've heard us talk about it. I'm not going to beat it to death.
It has some beautiful acting and some beautiful moments. I guess I disagree with where I think it wants us to go. So,
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. So, let us talk about what we will discuss next week. Now, just as a heads up, friends, next week we are recording, and then the following week we will be recording a live video with Evan at conference. At some point, we're going to get together and we're going to record that. So we already have that film picked out, and we'll talk about that next week. But for next week, I would like to offer up. I'm going to go back a long way,
okay.
back to 1939.
Oh, wow. A long
Okay.
one. Okay.
And there's a film, it's available on Tubi, so you're not going to have to pay to watch it, called Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
James Stewart, Claude Rains,
Yeah,
classic
yeah.
American film, and a little bit about politics. Not that we get deeply into politics here, we touch a little bit, but not much. But this one is really more about the kind of the inner workings of Washington.
Sure, absolutely.
And I think it'll be an interesting discussion for us to have.
Sounds good.
So you good with that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. So then for next week, we're going to watch Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Until next Friday, friends, keep on finding God in the dark. We'll see you all again next week. Take care and God bless.
Bye.
Thanks again for watching the Finding God in the Dark podcast, friends. If you've made it here all the way to the end of the video, then obviously you find something that we're doing to be educational or informative, something valuable in this podcast. So we want to invite you to go ahead and share this with your friends. Hit the like button. Follow us for more of this. We publish every week at 10 a.m. on Friday mornings on YouTube. Shortly thereafter, you'll find us somewhere on Facebook. Until next Friday, keep on finding God in the dark. Thanks for watching. Bye now.